We have some Miami Heat news to break down because the Heat have signed yet another player. Earlier in the week, they signed Nasir Little to a one-year non-guaranteed contract. Now it's Caleb Daniels. He gets an Exhibit 10 contract, and you might see the name and, well, recognize it. It's because he's been with the organization in the past. And this is kind of a significant signing, if we will. It was an official Exhibit 10 contract. And the reason why the name sounds familiar, well, it's because he spent last year for the Heat's G League team. He was also on the Heat's Summer League team last year after being a UDFA out of Villanova, and then was on the Heat Summer League team again this summer, a part of that championship winning team. And this is an important signing because you're allowed 21 players going in the training camp on your roster. Well, the Heat had 20 after signing Nasir Little. So Daniels is that final guy at 21, which means the Heat's roster is now officially set going in the training camp. And we'll talk more about him and Josh Christopher later on in today's show. But help me out and spread the word here of the Heat Report, because we're posting Heat content on the daily, breaking down news, rumors, and we'll have watch parties as well. So if you have a friend, family member, or someone who needs to be educated on the Miami Heat, help us out and share today's video. Let's talk about Caleb Daniels because, like I mentioned, he was on the Summer League team that won the championship just 2 or 3 months ago, and he did play a pretty large role. I mean, he played 13 minutes a game, shot extremely well from 3, and was a big-bodied guard. He's listed at 6'4", but he's thick. He can move athletically, laterally, and vertically. Caleb Daniels was a very productive player in the Big East, was a longtime college player there all 4 years, played well for Jay Wright. And, oh, my God, I'm spacing on the name. Oh, my God, I'm going to drive myself nuts as a college hoop head. I can't think of the guy's name. Kyle Neptune, thank you, was the final coach at Villanova. I would have drove myself nuts if I was not able to think of that on the spot. But back to Caleb Daniels. Sorry, folks. He is an above-average defender. He is really, really solid in that role. And you saw him take on the task of guarding some of the top young talent in Summer League for Miami. When he checked in and played 13 minutes a game in Summer League, he was defending the opposing team's top guys on the perimeter. And Daniels actually played pretty well last year as well for Sioux Falls in the G League. Played 31 games, averaged 13 points a game. The three-point efficiency wasn't what you saw in the 5 games in Summer League, but that is also a much smaller sample size when you're talking about the 5 games in Summer League compared to a full season of the G League that he played in last year for Sioux Falls. Caleb Daniels is an intriguing guy. He's a Heat culture type of guy. Anybody from the Big East really qualifies for Heat culture, if you're asking me. It's why I love the Big East basketball conference and college basketball the most, but that's a different conversation for a different day. Before we move on here, let me know, it's funny tidbit here. It's a Friday. Let's talk about it. Do you remember Caleb Daniels from the Summer League team? Type Y if you do. Type N if you don't. No issues either way, but I was just curious if any of you guys remember his name playing for the Heat Summer League squad. But when you talk about what this means for the grand scheme of things in Miami, it really means nothing. He's heading to Sioux Falls in all likelihood. The Exhibit 10 contract just allows Miami to guarantee him going to Sioux Falls potentially. Now, it technically doesn't, but when you go into the regular season, you have to have 18 players at maximum on your roster. 15 full guaranteed roster spots, and then 3 two-way contracts. Miami will likely carry 17 because if they carry 18, well, that means they have gone into the second apron and are carrying Nasir Little guaranteed, which I don't see them doing. I think it's going to be 17 players for Miami. And then some of the other guys that did not make it, maybe it's a Drew Smith, maybe it's an Isaiah Stevens, maybe it's a Zion Pullen, maybe it's Caleb Daniels, who ends up going and joining the Miami Heat G League squad. All right, let's transition into the back half of today's video now, and let's talk about Josh Christopher, the guard who really flashed onto the scene for Miami this summer in Summer League as well, because he sat down and spoke to Ira Winderman of the Sun-Sentinel and had a lot to say about his development inside the Heat organization. Christopher said that since he's been given and put in this situation, he's been given direction and guidance on how I will succeed, and that is becoming a complementary player. I think they've helped me enjoy and take pride in the process of just being a low-maintenance complementary player. I've honestly found joy in that, too. Morphing into a team guy and somebody who is going to be a part of winning basketball and how I can fit into the puzzle. And that is like a big thing for me. It really is, because when you think about Josh Christopher's backstory, one of the highly touted recruits coming out of high school, goes to Arizona State, is expected to be a one-and-done guy for the Sun Devils and be a high draft pick. And he wasn't as high of a draft pick as he was probably thinking he was going to be, but he was still drafted in the first round for the Houston Rockets in the early 20s of that draft. So he was still drafted relatively high, but not as high as he thought because he was expecting to be a top 5, top 10 pick after being a top recruit going to Arizona State. And he wasn't that good in college. He was good enough, obviously, but it was always the intangibles, the athleticism that was able to get him so far in life. But he really started to show how skilled of a basketball player he really is for the Heat Summer League squad. And he was the main reason why the Heat were able to win it all in Las Vegas. He was the best scorer on the team. He was playing really well alongside Kel'el Ware, alongside Cole Swider, Pallel Larson, Isaiah Stevens. But Christopher was really the engine of that offense, averaging nearly 20 points a ball game. But the most impressive thing to me was how efficient he was. He shot 52.5% from beyond the arc, and it's not like he shot 3 threes a game. He was putting up 7, 8 threes a contest for the Heat Summer League squad, and he was making 3 or 4 of them every single night. And another number I want to point out on screen here is the steals, 2 steals a game, because he also talked about in this interview with Ira about how Coach Spoelstra and him talked about what he can do as a player when he joined Miami and was in Miami last May. And Spo told them, you've got to be someone who can be a top defender. You've got the athleticism. You've got the physicality, the size profile, the wingspan. To be a disruptive defender in the NBA, you need to get your hands on balls, deflect them, create steals, and get out in transition. And Josh Christopher took that to heart, obviously, because he was playing extremely good defense as well as being a flamethrower on the offensive end for the Heat Summer League squad. And you saw the numbers. He averaged 2 steals a game. He was deflecting even more. So Coach Spo asked him to do something, and he did it. And that's what I really like. And I do believe he actually has a future in this Heat organization. Am I going to guarantee he's going to be some superstar player like he was drafted to be and thought of coming out of high school? Probably not. No. But I do believe he can be a solid rotation guy. And I've thrown out this in the past this summer when talking about Christopher and his future. Do I think he's going to get a standard contract this year? No. But if he plays well in Sioux Falls, develops the way Miami likes, gets maybe a couple call-ups during the regular season to play on the big league squad, because you get to play in 50 games at minimum, or maximum, I should say. So there is a chance he gets to play. And if he shows that he's worth keeping around, I could see Miami with Alec Burks coming off the books, Josh Richardson coming off the books, Duncan Robinson having an early termination option this offseason, and you could save $10 million and only pay him $9.9 to not be on the roster rather than $19.9 to be on the roster. Maybe Christopher is ultimately that guy off the Heat's bench next season that is entrusted to be that dribble handoff, 3-point specialist, running off pin downs, elevator screens. I think it's possible. And if he continues to elevate his play defensively, I think the sky's the limit for the kid as long as he's able to be a consistent 3-point shooter. All right, make sure you grab your Miami Heat hats. The season is just around the corner. Get your gear today. $10 off, usually $33. Right now, when you go to chatsports.com/Heat hat, you can get the sweet two-tone adjustable Heat hat for $23. Links in the description and comments of today's video. Get yours today before they run out. I do want to round out today's show by having a conversation about the current two-way situation for Miami, because you get 3 two-way contracts. Right now, they can be changed at any time, but it's Keshad Johnson, Josh Christopher, and Drew Smith. Keshad Johnson's an absolute lock to stay in that two-way deal. He was just too good at Summer League in terms of his two-way ability of playing defense, being athletic on the boards, being a skywalker out in transition, knocking down his three-point shot at around 40% of a clip. He was extremely good. The high-profile UDFA out of Arizona, who Miami gave a two-way contract to relatively soon. I think he was actually the first two-way contract signed in general after the draft concluded in June. Christopher obviously stole Zion Pullen's spot on the two-way list after the Summer League portion of the offseason, and then Drew Smith is currently right there. And I think these two are going to stay, unless you see Zion Pullen or Isaiah Stevens both go nuclear in the training camp portion of the next 2 or 3 weeks. But to me, it's going to be a battle for that Drew Smith spot. It is, because I don't expect Drew Smith to start this year as a two-way player for Miami. And I think it's going to be a great, fun battle to see. Right now, there's 3 players fighting to take that Drew Smith two-way spot. It's going to be Caleb Daniels, it's going to be Zion Pullen, and it's going to be Isaiah Stevens. And those three are going to be absolutely battling it out, man. It's going to be a lot of fun to see how they play in training camp in the preseason. I think Stevens has the upper leg because of how well he played in Summer League. He was better than Zion Pullen. He was better than Caleb Daniels. He shot 40+% from three. He averaged nearly 10 assists a game. Isaiah Stevens was very, very impressive. Reminds me a lot of, honestly, Kyle Lowry in the way he uses his small stature to get around his defenders and set up other plays and playmakers on his team. So he's someone I got my eye out for. But then you also can't deny Nasir Little. Because of his NBA tenure, he can't really get a two-way contract, but it's going to be a lot of fun to see if he's able to work his way to a guaranteed roster spot for Miami. Non-guaranteed right now, but he is a talented defender and an exciting project, I should say, for Miami. I'll do it for today's episode. Make sure you are subscribed because we're dropping daily content here. And if you're still watching the video, well, it's clearly you like what we're talking about and how we're breaking down the Heat organization here. So if you're not subscribed and still watching, what are you waiting for? Hit that sub button. As always, I'll see you tomorrow with another video. Go Heat.